Hello and welcome back to another Demis Hellen tutorial. We are back with the synthwave track, but this video is focusing on mid and side compression. Now it is the same idea as mid and side EQ, for example. The EQ can be EQ'd in mid mode and side mode. And this is exactly the same for the compressor now. We can compress each channel independently. So we have the left channel for mid and the right channel for side. And Cyclone has a really nice saturation to it as well, so when used properly this sounds really nice. So let's solo the synth leads that this is on. I'm just going to bring up the mixer and go to the lead section here. Now I'm just going to quickly bypass this so you can hear exactly what it sounds like before the processing, and then we'll turn it back on and you'll be able to see and hear what's going on. So it almost sounds like we have added extra instruments in, but all we've done in reality is added the mid and side processing. And what this is doing is adding the compression to the side and the mids independently, but it helps you to boost that definition between the two and thus make it sound like there's a bit more space between those two sections, and also just it kind of widens and fills everything out nicely. And you can hear when you turn this off, it kind of narrows back in and sits in the middle of your mix. It's got stereo details still, but it's not as defined and thick, and probably the word lush is what I'd describe this particular sound. Okay, so that's enough of hearing that for a second. What we'll do is load up another instance of Cyclone and we will walk through what is happening. So I'm just going to drag this EQ down here and we'll put Cyclone. And there we are, we have a new instance of that. I'm just going to bypass that for now. Right, so Cyclone works on adding a little bit of a hotter signal into it to take advantage of the saturation that it offers, and it just sounds really nice. So there are ways and means of increasing this. You can increase the makeup and parallel, you can kind of mix them together in the makeup gain to kind of push things in a bit harder, but inevitably you're not increasing your signal to be as hot into it. So this kind of goes against the gain staging kind of concept, but what we're going to do is we're going to increase this by 5 dB, and let's get as nearest to it we can, which is probably going to be there. So 5 dB increase, so now our sound is a lot higher, so just turn your headphones down if this is going to be the case. So now the signal is 5 dB louder, we can actually start to benefit Cyclone from that. So if we just turn the threshold up, these are linked at the moment and in stereo mode, you can see we've got a nice signal and we've hardly turned it up. If we turn this gain off, it's only just barely working, and it needs that hotter signal to come in and drive that saturation unit. So up again we go. You can see there we've got a 5 to 1, increase the threshold, so we're getting like 3 to 4 dB, and that's about nice there. Don't think it's going to jump any higher. And let's set our attack a little bit slower, release a little bit slower there, softer knee, and then increase the saturation a bit. Okay, so we've just compressed it there, and that is just really an introduction on how to use the saturation, how to get the most out of your saturation. So in this case I haven't chosen to increase the signal's strength into it because I wanted it to be quite subtle and just kind of take advantage of the saturation sort of on a really low level. So I've opted not to have the gain increase. So let's reset this back to default. You can just double click everything. There we are. And you can solo these channels left and right on their own and keep them linked, or you can change this to mid-side mode just by clicking there. Unlink them and you have independent control over mid and side, so they don't move together. So playing this again, What we want to do is increase the stereo detail and make it feel airy and like it's just floating away on the top, because some of these sounds that I've used actually give that impression. And then the mid side is just really to boost that mid-range sort of area that it's focused in. So I'm going to increase the threshold, and you can see there's some gain reduction starting on the mid side. I'm going to have it fairly soft, and I'm going to have this to about 6:1. I want to go a bit harsh on this. So I'm going to start with a fairly fast attack, and then you can see the differences between the two. And we'll have a fairly fast release as well. I'm going to saturate it a little bit more. Okay, so now when we put that makeup gain, you can hear that the mids are really defined. You can hear them clearly, but there's like this weird sensation that your headphones have collapsed in on themselves, and that is because the side detail has now taken a back seat, and it just sounds all a little bit weird. So let's start to increase this threshold, and we'll go for about a 4:1 on this one, and we'll keep these settings roughly the same on each side. A bit of a softer knee, a bit more saturation, and a bit more makeup gain. And we've kind of restored the balance now between the two. You can see we've increased them both by 6 dB, roughly the same settings, and everything sounds sweet. So let's just bypass this for a second. Okay, so at the moment it just sounds louder, and that is not what really I'm aiming for here. So I am aiming to boost the side signal a little bit more than what the actual mid section is doing. So I'm going to have a slower attack on both sides, slower release, so the compressor takes its time to close back down, because these are all very slow, gentle, floaty sounds. And we're going to have a bit of a softer knee on both. I'm going to increase the saturation on the highs. Just boost that up a little bit. There. So now if we listen to the mid channel on its own, we can hear what we've done by bypassing. So pay attention particularly to the arpeggio that's playing quite low down in the mix. It becomes a lot louder and more upfront. But along with everything else, it sounds nicely balanced out. And this is all based on your mix prior to this bus channel that this is going through. Okay, so let's switch to sides. And you can hear everything on the side channels. And it all sounds a little bit weird because you're not hearing that mono detail in there. And if we bypass, so you can hear that we've actually increased its audible kind of range with the, in terms of the mids. They're a lot more prominent now with this compression technique added. When we bypass it again, you just hear it kind of flattens out and doesn't have that vibe to it. And it gives that impression that there's a little bit of lightness to the sound. Now when we introduce the mids back in, we get this lovely balanced thick sound, and if we bypass the plugin with both on, you'll hear how it kind of collapses back into the middle a little bit closer. It does have that side and kind of stereo detail in there, but it's not as prominent. And back on. So just by tweaking the mid and side using compression, you know that a compressor, if you add it to your plucks and it's got a lot of delay and reverb, if you add the compression in after those effects, you kind of enhance those effects because it's effectively reducing the peak volumes like a compressor always does, but that brings it closer to the lower volumes. And this is doing exactly the same but in mid and side mode, so you're enhancing certain features in both areas independently. And that is how you can get a thicker sound using compression on the mid and side mode using Cyclone. Let's just finish the video off by listening to the entire track playing together, and we'll bypass Cyclone in and out so you can hear exactly how it is making everything stand on top of the bass and percussion. There you have it. That is using the compressor to process mid and side and give some more life to your track. As you can hear, that really does give that airy feel, and it just makes everything seem to fit and gel a lot better together with very minimal effort. So just to quickly go over, we have 3 pad sounds here. One is bounce down, and then we have 2 pad sounds here. That's it. That's all there is. And then we've got the 2 basses and the percussion down here. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like. Drop me a comment down below and let me know what you think, and tell me what you use your mid and side compression for, if you use it. And finally, hit subscribe. There are videos Monday, Wednesday and Friday. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.